Hello, trading is closed on June 11th, 2020. We'll go over our calls, look for the pattern with the early low. You can't really tell from the straight line drop, but this was it. And tomorrow's pattern has the early high. We said we should have lower prices, and if the move were going to stick, it should start with a gap down. So we got all that. We have a new target for tomorrow. 30.56.69. Unless we gap down smartly, that's my call. Be aware if this is the start of a down leg, that MEJT almost always will leave a failed target. And if it doesn't leave a failed target, it probably isn't the start of a major change in trend, but I don't have enough to be convinced at this time that that's what this is. During the day, MEJT gave a buy signal and an ultimate buy signal too. It says this whole move is false. Gives us a target of 3,056.69. Now we pointed this out earlier. We had these DeMark sell signals, very strong signals in his work. He had a stop, which he says should be defined loosely. Well, he doesn't say exactly what loosely means. What's your cutoff? And you have to have a stop someplace. And by his rules, this violated his stop. But if you want to be generous with loosely, the signals worked. If there's going to be a collapse, typically you'll go under this line down in the 2400s within 3 trading days of this bar. Well, that's impossible now. We have another TDST line at 2863.70, and the reasonable support level for the drop is 2863.70 plus 1 bar under the line. Doesn't have to hit there, but if it hits there, that'll be support. So we have support in the 2800s. Doesn't obligate us to hit there. Doesn't require support to hold. We'll just pencil that in. Well, this was my original count. And it still could be right. And if it's the right count, and that's A, and that's B, C was right at 61.8%. So this certainly is a candidate for the end of blue B, which would mean blue C was starting down in spades, and we get another move like this tomorrow. That doesn't break any rules. But again, it's not the only way to count this. I've not given up on the alternate count, in which case we completed A of blue B, and so far at least we just have a 50% correction of that wave. I'm still hoping we see 32.99, ideally by around July 3rd. Doesn't mean I get everything I want, but this hasn't been ruled out. Now when you have a slanting line like this, a slanting trend line, and you break through it in a straight line, there's a great tendency to return to the line. Doesn't mean you go back there tomorrow, but just be aware, once this leg stops, we have a target of returning to that line. Doesn't obligate the target to be hit though. Well, here's the support I have at today's low. You connect this line and this line. You dropped right to that trend line without going through it. Typically, when you drop to the line but not through it, either you gap under the line or the line wins. We also have support from the 200-a-day moving average. And people who follow this like to go long when you hit the moving average. They view this as a support level. We also have Fibonacci support. I'm also calling this a cup, although it's a bit generous with the definition, with the handle sloping down. If you're going to have a sustainable move, you want to pull back with the handle sloping up, and then you go down. When it's like this, typically it doesn't stick. Now, I have seen these things fail, but if so, they would gap down tomorrow. So if we gap down tomorrow, support fails. Otherwise, you're at support and have a higher MEJT target, along with a daily pattern that tends to be a rally day. Here are my calls for next week. Friday's pattern has the early high. Doesn't mean you won't gap down. Typically, the day rallies, hits a high in the final hour. Failure is a straight line drop. So higher target, if you don't gap down smartly, I think it'll print. Higher risk it won't, but that's my call. Today's corrective wave dropped to support but not through it. Drops to continue tomorrow. We should gap under the low. Now the volatility index is far over its upper Bollinger Band. If you reverse through, that gives a buy. Hasn't happened yet, but you're in the range where you could get a buy as soon as tomorrow. MEJT diverged as we dropped. It's a signal. It shows non-confirmation. Doesn't mean the drop's over. NASDAQ McClellan Oscillator created under its lower Bollinger Band. Reversing through, it gives a buy. So if we get a rally day tomorrow, a number of things will give us a buy, and we'll have support holding. That's if we get the rally. If the decline continues, I think eventually it will. Support in the 2800s doesn't mean you go there in a straight line. Ideally, after this drops over, you'll have one more rally, possibly to 32.99, before a serious decline begins. But if we gap down, you have another day like today, tomorrow, you can make a case, and a pretty good case, that the high of this leg is in, and we've completed AB and getting wave C down. So we'll have to see if we gap down tomorrow, or what I think is more likely, we get a recovery from this. So tomorrow has the early high. If we don't gap down, here's the target. If we don't see this, it increases the chance that we're not going to recover. But I think the chances for recovery here are pretty good, to be honest. And that's today's call.